Welcome to the Make Every Pellet Count podcast with Sam and Steve from Conair. I'm Sam.
I'm Steve.
And we're your trusted source for auxiliary equipment for the plastics industry. Today we have Brian Saint joining us from Intralox in New Orleans, Louisiana. Welcome, Brian. So, Brian, if you could start, could you give us a little background on yourself?
Yeah, so like you said, my name is Brian Saint. I work at Intralox, the main headquarters down in New Orleans. I've been here about 9 years, and I am the material distribution group supervisor. So the group that blends the material, dries the material, sends it out to the machines, and then we also pick up the pallets and deliver them back to the warehouse once we've actually made the modules with them.
Great, thank you for that. And how did you get into the plastics industry in your career?
Well, in Louisiana, there's not a whole lot of plastic type industries down here for when it comes to injection molding. There's some blow molding. So it's basically I knew my college roommate worked at Intralox. I was looking for a job at one time. He set me up with an interview down here, and for whatever reason, they decided to hire me to be a processor on the floor, and that's how I got started here at Intralox.
Great.
So what are your main responsibilities at Intralox? I think you covered it a little bit, but I don't know if you could speak a little more to it.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm a supervisor. I have 25 direct reports. So I'm responsible for the group that, we order the material from the warehouse, we blend it, and send it out to the machines. Also, if it needs to be dried. We have 170 different materials that we use between our base material, color, additives, and regrind that we use. And so we're managing all of those materials. Once the parts are made, we have IPs with inspector packers that actually put the parts on the pallets. Once those pallets are complete, another division of my group, they go out there and they pick those pallets up and prepare them, wrap them, label them, things like that for the warehouse, and get them ready for the truck drivers to pick up and go put them in the warehouse. And then the third, division that I work with is the regrind group. And so we have several regrind techs that they take our 6 highest used, highest volume materials, and we grind them up and make sure there's no contamination and things like that. And then we store that and obviously reuse it again. So my day-to-day is it could be anything and everything when you're dealing with 25 direct reports. Also, I'm involved in a lot of different projects. So when we did like the blending room expansion with Conair, we're right now in the middle of a regrind rebuild with Conair. So I get involved in a lot of those projects. We have project managers, but my people are going to be the ones using the equipment and actually working in that area. So I get to have a lot of say on how we set up and how we're going to use it. So,
thank you. So you gotta give us a lot of information there. So just a little bit more on Intralox too. That was some of the background. Can you give us a little idea of the company culture, a little more on Intralox?
Sure. Yeah. So we can start kind of with the history. So J.M. LaPere started the company back in the 70s, early 70s. So unfortunately, during COVID, we celebrated our 50-year anniversary. It wasn't as big as a celebration as we would like it to be. But J.M. started with a shrimp peeling idea. So that was revolutionary back in the 1940s on how to peel shrimp. One of the problems is back then, a lot of people used metal conveyor belts. And so he designed a plastic modular conveyor belt, and that's what started Intralox. Once he developed that product, obviously a lot more innovations came. We were able to, they were able to grow the company to become an international company to where we serve over 100 different countries. We have over 60,000 customers currently. So, back in, I think it's in the 80s, they instilled the LCI principles. So when you talk about the culture of our business, we have a challenge culture here. We challenge each other. We didn't get to where we are by doing the normal day-to-day stuff. We are innovative. We like to change. We test fast. We fail fast. We change and we move. We can't sit still. Everybody's always chasing after the next best thing, and we want them to be chasing after us. So we have a lot of research and development coming out with newer belts, faster ways to move the product, especially when you talk about some of the belts we sell to Amazon, United States Postal Service, when you're talking about moving small packages. We have some of the fastest belts in the world that can sort those in order to get those products out. Even though we're the fastest, we're still not happy with that. We want to get faster. We want to get better. And so it really creates a challenge culture. But it's also, even though we're in manufacturing, we like to keep things nice and calm. We like to have everything planned out. Yeah, things happen, things come up. But if you're doing your job, you stay calm, and you get those kind of things done. It's just kind of a different place to work in a good way, in a very good way. A lot of people really enjoy coming to work here. You walk around the plant, most people are happy, they're smiling, they're talking. You get to interact with a lot of people. So it's just a really good culture here. Kind of speaking to the culture part of it, I am about to make 10 years, and I'm considered new. So we have people that have been here 20, 30 years, and that people just don't leave. They like the culture here.
That's great. You talk a lot about, the people that like working there. So what are some of the things you like most about working at Intralox?
Yeah, so we are very self-managed. And so my boss isn't checking on me every day and trying to make sure that I'm doing my job. And I give that same freedom to my leads out there on the floor, my foreman. And so it gives me the opportunity to set my own schedule as long as I'm getting my work done. Really enjoy, just being able to take care of an issue the way I would like it to be taken care of. Obviously, we go through training and different things like that to make sure we're following our principles. And we have, our culture, our principles, things like that. Everyone follows those, right? So you can look at the philosophy for the answers. I hear that from a lot of other companies. They have a philosophy, and it's on the walls. But a lot of companies don't follow it, right? Whereas here we do. And so everyone's on the same page, and everyone helps everybody. So I have a lot of other supervisors, that are my peers, and I'm able to bring issues to them and say, listen, I have this situation. How should we deal with this? What should we look at? What should we do? And they'll ask different questions and have different perspectives. So that's one of the nice things that I like about my job, is that I'm not here alone. I'm not on an island. And I don't always have to go to my boss for an answer. I can go to my peers and have those real conversations and come up with the best solution.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. So you talked a little bit about this, but what kind of products does Intralox make? Could you tell our guests, specifically the different products and colors and things like that? And then also touch on specifically what type of processes does Intralox perform in-house?
Yeah, so we do a lot of our manufacturing here in the United States. We'll start with that. So we do our injection molding. We have two different locations, one in New Orleans, one north of New Orleans in Hammond. So that's our backup facility. They're actually growing. They're not so much our backup anymore. They're quickly becoming our primary. We have 150 injection molding machines here in New Orleans, and then we have another 100 machines in Hammond as well. We do outsource some of our molding, but not very much. So what we're doing is we're making the plastic modules for a conveyor belt. Like I said, most of those modules are made in-house. We also have assembly plants all around the world. Obviously one in Hammond, one in Harahan. And so we'll make the modules here. We make the rods here. All that's made in the United States. And then they're assembled together to make conveyor belts. So we try to basically have a little bit of play in every market. A lot of people haven't heard of us because a lot of times we're selling to other corporations, right? We're selling to other manufacturing businesses. But when you talk about tire, automotive, battery, we have a tough belt that deals with that. We do a lot of food grade type belts. Some people are kind of scared to touch food grade because of all the FDA standards that you have to follow and have to meet. You know, I sit there and I watch our belts come off, and if it has a little flake of plastic, well, that's no good for us. We reject that. We don't want any flash on our parts because we actually sell to customers that I eat their product, and I don't want to eat blue plastic in the food. And so we sell to a lot of food industries. You know, meat and poultry, also any kind of vegetable or anything like that. So a lot of different food industries. And I talked about a little bit earlier, selling to the Amazons, the UPS, the United States Postal Services of the world, and selling those belts that can move the small packages. So a lot of different industries. In fact, in kind of weird places that you wouldn't normally think of, in the sense of they had the Summer Olympics, the last Summer Olympics a few years ago. They're like, our conveyor belts are getting the kayaks up the mountain so they can, go down and do the competitions and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's really neat. Well, they showed a video. It wasn't bringing the kayaks. The person was sitting in the kayak on the conveyor belt going up. And I thought that was pretty neat to see something different that our conveyor belts do. So basically any industry that you can think of, we have an application, we have a use, or there's something that our conveyor belts can be used for.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, one of the things I find very interesting about Intralox is, a lot of companies in the plastics industry, they either specialize in injection molding or they specialize in extrusion or blow molding or something like that. But Intralox takes on both injection and extrusion, does both in-house, and does both very well. So,
yep.
Yeah, I find that very interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Are you able to speak to what resins Intralox processes?
Yeah, so we deal with a lot. If we have 170 different kinds of resin, you're gonna touch on a lot of them, right? So obviously we use some more of the basic ones: polyethylene, polypropylene, different grades of acetyl, different additives in our acetyl, all kinds of UV protection if the belt needs to go outside or things like that, or some carbon protection if the belt's going to be exposed to a lot of UV light. But we also use a PVDF, we use polyketone, we use urethane, a lot of different nylons, a lot of different nylon grades, things like that. We don't use any PVC or anything like that. So, but yeah, pretty much TPUs, any kind of like a Santoprene or rubber type material as well. So a lot of different materials, and we can make the same conveyor belt, like the same series. We might make it in polyethylene, polypropylene, an acetyl, and a nylon. So we might have the same belt series that we just make it in a lot of different types of materials for whatever the customer's needs are. And then obviously we have a lot of different colors. We are considered a custom molder, but we do have some limitations. One of them being we don't have the color purple. I'm an LSU fan, and it's really annoying that we don't have anything purple, so I can't make anything really LSU in here, as were some other people. They've got the black and the red and stuff like that they can make stuff with, and I can't do that.
Hey, can you share with us some of the projects you've worked on at Intralox?
Yeah, so one of the bigger projects that I did was with Conair. So currently, or before the expansion, we had 32 blenders in our blending room that were feeding material to 150 machines. Well, with all the materials that I listed before, that wasn't enough. We needed more. And so we had to expand our blending room. So once we made that decision, we decided to put 12 more blenders and 14 more dryers into that room. So obviously that gives us a large amount of blenders and trying to feed a lot of machines there. So some people come to our blending room, and they get a little overwhelmed with all the pipes and the hoses, and you see all these hoses hanging everywhere in the big selector tables and stuff. And one of the nice things, though, once you look at it and you realize it's just the same system over and over and over again. It's just a vacuum system. We're just conveying material. It's just a matter of what you plug it into and where it goes. But to get back to the blending room expansion, I worked with our engineers here, obviously with the project managers at Conair as well, in order to design a room that would maximize our space. So in order to expand our blending room, we had to take 5 to 6 injection molding machines out of our plant. That's a big deal, right? The injection molding machines are what make you money. And so we wanted to utilize that space as best we could. And so it was a very tight design. Our maintenance guys weren't always the happiest of how close we put things to the wall and things like that, but they're still able to service and PM the equipment. But that was really a fun project. What was neat about it, whenever we got the building or the room built, got the shell of it built, and the Conair equipment started showing up, truckloads and truckloads of this stuff. And people are going, how is it all going to fit in here? I'm going, well, according to the CAD drawings, it will all fit. And it did. Did a great job doing the install there and got the room up and running. So that project is a little unique, I would think, for Louisiana. So anyone that has been down here knows there's a lot of humidity. Anyone that deals with plastic knows nylon doesn't like humidity or moisture. So we had to actually design the room in such a way where we could keep that humidity and everything away from the material. So we actually sealed the surge bins, and we pumped dry air through them. Not hot air, but just dry air. So they're connected to dryers through a manifold system. And so that way, when we open those gaylords, we put them in those surge bins, and they can sit in there for a day maybe, or they can sit in there for months, and we don't have to worry about them gaining moisture. This was an issue we had with our old room, is that we would have some nylon sit in a surge bin, might sit there for 3 weeks. Well, next thing you know, it's gained so much moisture that it would take 2 days to dry it, and that's not feasible. That's not how you should handle your material. And so now we have that in those surge bins. It goes to our dryer, or goes to our blenders, and then falls directly into the dryers. From there, we use dry air to convey it out to the machines. And by doing that, that material stays in a dry environment all the way through the system. And it has really been a game changer for us, because we don't have those highs and lows of the moisture content that we used to have in the material. And that was a bigger project. So, I mean, if you want to dive into more details with it, hey, feel free. We can. I was involved from the beginning all the way until the end of it.
Yeah, what made you pursue working with the Conair team on that project?
So we have Conair equipment throughout our plant at the moment, or we always have. I wasn't part of the decision decades ago to go with Conair, but I did get to talk with one of the founders of the company, or his dad founded the company. He still works here, and he was the one that started the blending, the central blending in this building. And one of the reasons he went with Conair is because y'all have a solution for whatever we're doing. And so I'll elaborate a little bit more on that. Some companies, especially a few decades ago, might have only specialized in drying or conveying or blending, and they always were missing a piece somewhere in the system. But with Conair, from the beginning all the way to the end, y'all handle the material until it gets to the feed through. And so that way, if we have an issue, if we have a problem, we're going to one source. And we don't have to worry about one company saying, well, it's the other company that's doing it. No, we'll work with y'all and we'll figure out a solution. And we've done that multiple times with different challenges that have come up. And we've always been able to find a solution that works for us.
So, yeah, jumping back to the dry blending room project, what were your initial goals for that project?
Yeah, so initially one was just capacity, right? We had to get more blenders as we kept introducing more and more resins in this plant. But then we didn't want to miss the opportunity to be able to treat our material better and have it not gain moisture. And talking with the project managers and stuff at Conair, they go, traditionally we don't do this. I said, yeah, but traditionally you build stuff in the north or in West Texas or something like that moisture isn't that big of an issue. And they go, you're right, and that's when we came up and developed the solutions of how to deal with the kind of humidity that we have down here. But yeah, number one goal was the capacity. Number two was, hey, let's make sure that we keep the moisture out of the material. And then number three was just ease of use, right? There's no point in building a nice addition or nice facility if it's just a pain to use. And so there was also some great things that we did in there, great designs that we put in place to make sure that the worker could work in there, and the maintenance guys can take care of the equipment and things like that.
Yeah. So how did Conair help you achieve those goals?
So, yeah, we explored a lot of different ideas. We looked at putting large dryers to dry the base material and then dry the color and have it blended together and then go straight to the machine that way. Conair came to us and said, look, we have blenders that you can hook dry air to and pump dry air through the blender itself. And so that kind of gave me some ideas about doing the system a different way. The problem is some of our materials, we use so much of them, we would have needed just an insane amount of dryers, and it would have taken a lot more space. And so Conair came up with a different design on how to use the surge bins and said, look, we can do this to our surge bins. We can pump dry air through them. We can put snorkels in them and put the dry air at the bottom and have it come through. And so that just opened up some different avenues and some different ideas on how to manage the room. And so it was that, right? I mean, they listened to what we needed, what we wanted to do, and they were willing to work with us whichever design we want to go to. It took a year for when we started designing this room until we actually placed the PO for it. That's a long time to work on a project, but we explored every possible idea, path, solution that we could think of. And I think we came up with a great one that saves us space in our plant and does everything that we want it to do.
Can you explain a little bit about the project management process and in particular for the expansion?
Yeah, so we worked with your guys on that as well. Obviously, they did really well of making sure that we understood when the equipment was going to show up, when it was going to arrive. And then also with what was, during the pandemic, right? There were certain components we couldn't get or y'all couldn't get for different pieces of equipment, but they kept us up to date on what that looked like. So that way we didn't have any unexpected delays, I guess is kind of what I'm thinking about there. But also they showed a lot of great patience with going through different designs. I mean, we would come up with something and we would put it out in the CAD drawings and all that kind of stuff, and we'd work through it and we would have meetings about it. Then we'd basically take that whole design and delete it. And we would start over with something else in order to get to the right spot. Now, one of our project managers here worked a little closer with y'all's project manager, but I saw that communication going through. It was really good. Y'all kept us up to date on, like I said, if things were delayed or if things were happening on time and what the realistic expectations were. There was never an overpromise. Yeah, we can deliver that in 2 weeks. No, that's on back order. We're going to have to. Luckily, a lot of those things have been dissolved now, but kept the communication open, and I really think they did a good job with that because I was able to talk to the management here and let them know, hey, this is the timeline we're looking at. This is what we're trying to do. This is what's going on. And then when they would walk through the plant, they would see that, it wasn't like I said, okay, the equipment's going to be delivered by this date. Well, when they walked the plant after that date, the equipment was there. The things were happening the right way. So, yeah, I think it was really good.
Okay. Well, I'm going to change gears here a little bit. I appreciate all that insight on the dry blending room. But I want to bring this back a little bit to Intralox corporate. So, from your perspective, could you give us a little bit of insight into how Intralox participates in sustainability efforts?
Yeah. So, with doing being involved in the regrind portion of this company, obviously I get to be involved in the sustainability part. So we do have a sustainability group, and that's what they are doing constantly because we have multiple divisions here on this campus. So we have what we call a repair stair where they make an off-tread stair. We have a machine shop on campus as well where we're machining different metals and different things like that. And so we have a lot of opportunities to recycle not just plastic, but also our metal, and then of course cardboard, and then our trash. And there's a lot of things that group looks at in trying to make sure that we are being sustainable. So, like I said, with our plastic, and that's what I can speak to the most. The regrind program is big for us, right? So, like I said, we take our 6 highest used materials, and we grind those ourselves, and then reintroduce them to the blenders. Now, there's some other parts that we use, some nylons and some other acetals that, although they're a low volume, they're a high volume for the machine that they run in. And we're able to put at the press grinding for those. So there's another 3, maybe 4 other materials that we also grind at the press because they're specialized. Any chance or any opportunity that we have to be able to regrind our own plastic and reuse it ourselves, we want to do that. That's obviously the best, the cleanest, the most efficient way to handle the material. The second thing we do, and some of it's obviously for money savings, a lot of the sustainability stuff is financially beneficial as well, along with helping the environment, is we try to design our molds in such a way where the runner systems are extremely small, or not having a runner at all. That would be ideal. Then you don't have the plastic waste and things like that. But we're actually in the process. We just redesigned a mold and ordered a new mold just so that we could cut down on the runner size. Yeah, will it save us $300,000 a year? Yes, that is nice. But it was also what drove that was the amount of scrap that we were sending out from that mold. We wanted to reduce that. So the third or another leg to this is we work with our scrap vendor. So when you're dealing with as many materials as we are, it's hard to keep them all separated. But we have in the back of our plant, we have a lot of bins where we separate the different acetals, the nylons, the polyethylenes, polyurethanes, and things like that. And we try to put them in their own individual buckets so that we can send that to the scrap vendor. They're able to process it. And they do a lot of different things with it. Sometimes they grind it and resell it. Sometimes they're able to repelletize and sell it. But they're able to reuse a high 90 percentile of our material that we send them for other applications. Some of them around the world, their goal is to keep it domestic, right? To keep that product in the United States. And we work with them. We have monthly meetings with them to find out kind of what's going on in the market. How can we make it better? How can we get our material to them in such a way that they can use it, right? Because if you throw everything into a Gaylord or mix it all up in one bucket and send it to them, they can't use that. And then it ends up in the landfill. That's not what we want to do. We want to have as much of our material being reused as possible. And so all the way down from just the runners and things like that we have in our plant, and then in our assembly plants as well, the cut downs, because we don't always use the whole part. Sometimes we cut a few inches off of it, but those also can be processed in-house to be used as a regrind, or sometimes we ship that off to our scrap vendor, and they're able to reuse those as well. We have multiple assembly plants around the world, And so we try to do the same thing with them. Some of them, it makes sense. They ship the runners and things like that back to us, and we grind that back in the United States. The rest of the materials, they source local vendors, and they're able to use local scrap vendors in order to get so they can use the material as well. So not just in America, but around the world, we work hard to reduce the amount of material that would go to a landfill.
That's great. Are you able to talk about any potential future investments in the circular economy?
Yeah, so one of our big moves we're trying to make is just trying to get into the small packages. So we have a deal with Amazon, but during the end of the pandemic, some things happened and Amazon kind of shifted their business. So then we're starting to move into United States Postal Service, and we've made some good inroads there. Besides that, I'm not too keen on the marketing side of things. So that I know that's what they tell us is we're moving into those markets heavily. I see the financials and things like that, tire, automotive, seafood, poultry, meat, things like that. We are consistently seeing growth in those areas as well. But it's a little hard to kind of find new issue or new industries when you're kind of already have your hand in a lot of those. So, but like I said, they don't let me know all the newer projects and newer things going on.
If a new employee were considering an auxiliary equipment purchase, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, so I think one of the main things is, depending on the purchase, depending on what's going on with it, but to have Conair guys actually come down and look at the facility, get some eyes on the ground to where you can actually see what they need, right? Because a lot of times people think they know what they need until you start offering them different solutions and start showing different products that y'all offer, and then the gears, should start turning, and they should see different solutions or different ways to do things. But I even if y'all don't go to the facility, just talking with them, making sure that they're not ordering or buying something that they think they need. Have both sides come up with the best solution. Be open-minded to those kind of things. For instance, I know I've come to y'all's showroom twice up there in PA, and I love seeing all the new, gadgets and stuff like that, and it gets my mind turning in the sense of what issue am I dealing with that this piece of equipment can solve, or we might not be dealing with something today, but something in the future is going to come up, and I'm going to think, okay, no, I remember seeing this. Let me talk with Conair and figure out if this piece of equipment is viable in this situation, or what solutions do they have. So just that communication, I guess, would be the biggest thing.
That's good advice. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Brian, is there any team or team members that you'd like to thank for you or your team's success at Intralox?
Oh man, there's a lot. There's a lot. I get to work with a lot of good guys up there at Conair. I'm assuming you mean at Conair, you mean at Intralox?
It could be anywhere.
Anybody in your career, yeah.
Oh man, we can't even go down the road here at Intralox because, like I said, I have 25 people that report directly to me. If they weren't doing their job and they weren't doing their job right, then I would have to be on the floor. I'd have to be out there a lot more managing them, right? But they're able to do their job, and so I'm able to help them out by doing other projects and trying to make their job easier. So first of all, I'll start with those guys. There's been a lot of what we call EET, so that's equipment engineering team here at Intralox. They have a project manager, Brian Douglas, that he was the one that worked a lot with the dry blending room expansion. We did a total rebuild of our blending equipment and extrusion, and now doing the rebuild of our regrind equipment. So he's been heavily involved in all of those kind of things. There was a guy, Jason Hood, that used to work here. He did a lot of good work for us as well. He has since moved on to another company. But then from Conair, you had Mark Murphy. He's since retired. Man, I feel like I'm old. I know all these people that have moved on and done other things. Then, of course, Jason Gage. He's our sales rep up there, and he has been phenomenal. He knows I can come up with some of the craziest ideas and things to want to try or build or do. And he always just said, yeah, all right, let's try it. Let's see if that works. Because, I'll look at something and I'll say, listen, we don't really have that much room. Can we stack that on top of it? And he goes, all right, let me see what that'll take. And, and it comes back with the guys come back with a great solution on how to do that. Of course, Brian Osmond working with the teams up there for the group projects from Conair. So a lot of really good people. I'm not even going to get into the install guys. They come down here to install the equipment. We get to hang out with them and talk with them. They're also extremely helpful. I'll walk out there and ask them, hey, how are y'all about to do this? And they'll tell me. And I was like, well, let's do it this way. Okay, no problem. And they do it. So, man, there's just been a lot of really good people from both sides, right? You even talk about AJ with the drying specialist up there at Conair. I have his cell phone number. He has mine, and we'll call and talk. And so just, I don't know, a lot of really good people. I know I'm missing some names in there, but I hope I got most of them.
Great. Well, Brian, I want to thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it. I think we got a lot out of this today, and I hope everybody listening did too. So thanks for your time.
Yep, I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks, Sam.
Bye.